Why would someone on this show say that Nebraska football can't win another national championship? We'll discuss next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's Monday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone in Omaha. Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Why would someone say such a thing? So we were doing I think it was Thursday on this podcast. I don't even know what context it came up in, but I offhand mentioned that I didn't think, I think that I have seen Nebraska's last national championship in my lifetime. Therefore, I guess everybody else has as well. And so we had a listener who kind of followed up a couple of times like, hey, I'd like to hear you guys discuss this a little bit more. For the record, I don't know where Mitch stands on this. So I'm genuinely curious to get your sort of opinion on where Nebraska stands and where they could potentially be. But the follow-up question came from a listener on Twitter. I will not mention their name because it's very interesting. And it reads like this. Listen to the podcast this morning, and you said you don't think Nebraska can win a national title ever again. Can you explain why? And if that's the sentiment, what are we doing this for? Just to pay the coaches? Just maybe make it a segment in an upcoming show. Thank you. Okay, you got it. Right off the top on a Monday.
Well, okay. So your lifetime, you have a lot of lifetime left. I mean, Connor, you're young, and I don't know that we can see what's going to be of college football in 50 years in really any way, whether it's the postseason format, how a national championship is determined, really how many teams will even be playing at the level that a national championship is attainable, like even literally attainable. So let's just kind of push that out of this discussion and say that college football is some version of what it is. And there's 65 or so, maybe somewhere between 50 and 80 power programs, of which Nebraska is one, that are in the running for a championship. So you first have to go to the postseason and how it's structured. I will just say this. I'll start with this. I think in your lifetime, Nebraska can win another national championship just because it's so unpredictable, the direction of the sport. If you were to go back 40 or 50 years from now, which amazingly is only gets to you to like the 1980s.
Yeah.
That seems like 20 years ago, but it's not. That might just be my perspective. It still has changed a tremendous amount, and it's probably going to change more or just as much in the next half century. So, of course, I totally think that Nebraska can do that, and that's what we're doing this. What are we doing this for? We're doing this for lots of things. Like there are lots of programs in various sports, not really on the pro level but on the college level that don't have a realistic chance to ever win a championship, and they don't just like fold up shop. But so long-winded way of saying, yes, I think Nebraska can, but I think what we need to talk about is how hard it is and how the postseason is shaped. In a 4-team college football playoff, it was almost impossible for Nebraska to make it in the current state of its program. In a 12 or 16 team playoff, Nebraska will be in the playoff. It can make the playoff, but making the playoff and doing what Ohio State did last year, two completely different topics.
It only makes it marginally more likely that you're able to win a national championship if you're able to make a 12 or 16 team playoff. But right. It's a completely different thing. So to the question of what are we doing this for? I think you nailed it. It is Like there is a lot of programs out there who win a lot of games and they're very happy with it. You're doing it to win games. You have a game in front of you and you win it. And that's the story. And you could be very happy with winning a lot of those over a very, very long period of time. I mean, like Nebraska was doing it for several years in a row, and looking back on it now, it seems awesome, and there was more that they could have got out of seasons when Bo Pelini was around and stuff like that. But if you achieve, or you even maybe overachieve to what your roster says you are, then you're probably going to have a chance to be really, really happy. That's all I ask out of my teams on a yearly basis. Like, get to what your roster and your coaching staff and what you put into it says you are, or overachieve a little bit. And you could be really happy at the end of the day, even if it doesn't result in a national championship. But I think even if Nebraska overachieves, there's still a gap between that and winning a national title. And the reason I say that is because I just don't like. And yes, I am thinking about it in the current context of college football, not in a world where like Ohio State could, be in the NFL or something, if there's like relegation in college football or something like that. Like, no, I'm thinking about it under the current pretenses, which, yeah, they could change for sure. But I just think Nebraska's roster is so far away. And that's not just now. That's what Nebraska's roster was, is 8 years ago. The last time they won 8, like even when you win 8, 9, 10 games, you're still pretty far away. The closest Nebraska's been after the 90s to winning a national after 2001, I guess, to winning a national championship was probably 2009 or 2010. And their roster still wasn't good enough, but they had one dominant player, and they still lost 4 games in each of those.
And that could happen again. Nebraska could get a dominant player like that. 09, 010, by the way, you're talking about.
Yes, 09, 010, indeed. So when Sue was, tossing around Colt McCoy, like they could get a player like that. But they still weren't. I don't know. They still. I never thought that they were going to win a national championship.
So, okay, let's look at what Ohio State did last year. And if you want to know how hard it is to win a national championship in the expanded playoff era, you all know, but just to review, because it's been a few months, Ohio State beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame in less than a month.
In a row. Yes.
Yeah.
And also their roster is 90% blue chips, 90% 4 stars or above. Nebraska is like, I think it's less than 30 at this point. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
So somebody has to win every year. And I don't think that college football is necessarily going to be this sport long term. Maybe for the next few years. But it goes through cycles, and I don't think it's going to be this sport long term where only like 3 to 5 teams have access to a national championship. The first decade of an expanded playoff, you might see something like that. In fact, I think you will. Like, I don't know that there will be more than 4 teams. I would say today, if you took the expanded playoff from 2024 to 2033, the first 10 years of it, and said how many teams will win the national championship in the first 10 years, I would put the over-under at what? 4.5, 3.5? Sure. Yeah. Okay. But it's I don't think it's always going to be like that. I do think there will be change and ebbs and flows in the sport, and there will be a team that rises up at some point and wins a championship that you say, where did that come from? And I don't mean where did that come from in the sense that it's Ohio State, which didn't qualify for the championship game in its own conference, because Ohio State clearly, we knew from the beginning of the season, had tremendous talent. I mean a team that, like an Arizona State from last year, which was on the verge of making a run. Someone who comes out of the shadows and catches lightning in a bottle. It's more difficult, way more difficult to do it in this college football format than it is, say, in the college baseball format, or even in basketball, where San Diego State made the Final Four in very recent times.
Like, as close as Arizona State was, Mitch, I mean, that team's just not. They're not going to win a national championship.
That team is not going to do it. Right. Yeah. someone's going to build on that. There's going to be a run that happens by some team in college football once a decade that just makes you completely shocked. And why can't it be Nebraska in the 2030s or the 2040s? Like, it seems silly to say that can't happen.
Think about Ohio State as a program. Before they hired Urban Meyer, it's a really good program. It's a national championship contending program. It looks the same as a lot of the the power programs in the country. The strength in Ohio State is that it was recession proof. Even that program, like, kind of had to sell its soul, hire Urban Meyer, and get, like, they felt like, all right, we can really do this. I just don't think Nebraska is going to do that. I don't know if that formula, like, is there a person that you could hire to where they come around and all of a sudden your roster is immediately at Nebraska? By the way, that's Ohio State, at Nebraska. So there's still the regional recruiting and all that stuff that you have to kind of deal with. Can you hire one person in the snap of a finger? All of a sudden your roster is one of the top 5 most talented rosters in the country. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that exists.
In theory, yes. Sure. Somebody has to win every year. Somebody has to be that program. It's usually going to be Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, but it doesn't always have to be. Someone else can catch lightning in a bottle. I think sometimes we live as prisoners of the moment, and we think about what college football is right now, what college sports is right now. There was a day where Nebraska was that program. It was a long time ago. I think we all agree the 1990s are not coming back, where Nebraska plays for 4 or 5 national championships in a very short period of years, in 4 or 5 years. But to do it once and rise up once because you caught lightning in a bottle, because you made the right hire, because you got the right quarterback, because you had a generational player who dominates games from the offensive side or the defensive side. It's more difficult today because of the run that you have to make in the postseason. But I'm not writing it off. I think it can happen. And I kind of agree with the Twitter follower of yours it's slightly in that sense of, if it's impossible, then, man, that sure does make this sport a lot more depressing. There's a lot to live for every day.
It's depressing.
But I think part of what you're part you want to win. You want to be entertained. But part of it is just that, like, glimmer of hope that it could happen, that you could be that team that catches lightning in a bottle. And I think you have to hold on to that. And I believe it will happen. It may not be Nebraska, but it will happen for some program that is like Nebraska.
I think Nebraska's glimmer of hope, Nebraska's shining star, at least for me, because I've never thought about the way you just explained it. Like, the glimmer of hope keeping me alive as a Nebraska football fan is making the playoff, not winning the national championship, making the playoff. And that's what I view as like this beautiful, thing that you're chasing. I haven't even considered a national championship, but okay. All right. So that's an evergreen discussion that we can continue on, really whenever. Let me know what you think of that Twitter follower, and maybe we could follow up on it again. We'll be back after this to talk about the weekend on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. But first, a word from our friends at Monarch Money. You ever wonder where all your money went? Maybe Mitch does this weekend. There was a lot of stuff going on in Mitch's life.
Ooh, man.
Yeah. Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Not just a budgeting app is Monarch Money. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending all in one place, so you stop managing your money and you start building on it, start building wealth. All in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Once again, monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for half off your first year.
Welcome back. Monday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. Yes, Connor, as you mentioned there, it was a landmark, kind of a whirlwind, wild weekend for us here in the Sherman household. We graduated a child, so
Wow.
defied the odds and got someone through all of K through 12 schooling. So she is now she's out, right? Like I'm
Yep, it's
I'm
over.
sending her off into the world. Like it's
Yeah.
all on
Your
you. That's
job
how
is
that
your job is complete. Congratulations.
works, I think. So we had a big party on Saturday night and graduation yesterday at Ralston Arena. So that's something. As a parent of a young child, I can tell you have something to look forward to. That will be a moment yesterday and Saturday that I won't forget, and I look forward to you someday getting to experience that.
It's cool. You got another one coming up relatively soon, so hang on tight
And he
for
hasn't
that
even
one.
started high school, so let's chill on that.
Okay, all right. The weekend, it saw many things, including Matt Rhule yet again appearing at a different sporting event, which we will talk about in the third segment.
Yes.
But how about Nebraska baseball? Grab a 2 out of 3 this weekend against Michigan, doing what they needed to do and putting
Yeah.
themselves now in pretty good position to be able to make the Big Ten tournament in Omaha.
So a little rundown of this: walk-off home run by Case Sanderson to win the clincher of the series on Saturday. 3-run blast in the ninth inning. Nebraska wins 2 out of 3, loses the Sunday finale. Can't get the sweep against the Wolverines at home, but a good weekend for the Huskers at Haymarket Park. So after the weekend, Nebraska's sitting tied for 9th in the Big Ten with Rutgers at 13 and 14. In good position to make the league tournament next week in Omaha. Huskers go to Purdue this final weekend of the regular season. Purdue is 10 and 17, 15th place in the Big Ten. It needs a sweep against Nebraska. And then for some other things to happen to get to Omaha, Nebraska unequivocally needs to avoid getting swept because there's a very fat middle in the Big Ten with, it looks like, I tried to add this up, 12 teams playing for the nine spots, a 9-spot area, and Nebraska could finish as high as a tie for 5th in the league if it sweeps Purdue, or it could finish outside of the top 12 altogether. Right now, Iowa, UCLA, and Oregon are in contention to win the league. Minnesota and Ohio State are out of it. And really everyone else, USC's kind of got a leg up for 4th, but everyone else is just in a jumbled mess trying to get in position for seeds as we get to the final week of the regular season. So it's interesting if nothing else.
Yeah, no doubt. I didn't realize. I'm glad you mathed it, so I don't have to. If things break right for them, they could finish tied for 5th. I mean, that's kind of amazing when you think about what this season has been like for them. I guess I wouldn't count on it at this point, but keep winning series, man. You've done a good job at that, and you've put yourself at least in a position to almost assuredly at this point get into the dance, or into the Big Ten stance, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then you play it out from there. I mean, it's funny. It's kind of all about, like, you know, how you match up, where your pitching sort of lines up, who's in your pool, because they're doing pool play in the Big Ten tournament now. Who knows? Who knows? They could get hot.
They have a flair for the dramatic, and you've seen that a lot recently with the walk-off against Kansas State 2 weeks ago, and very dramatic against Creighton last Tuesday night. Almost pulled it out, did not. And then on Saturday with the walk-off, the Michigan pitcher was Michigan starter Lally was his last name, was outstanding and took the ball in the 9th inning in a 2-2 game and got in trouble. Michigan brought in its ace reliever. He threw one pitch. It was deposited over the fence for a 3-run home run. So that's dramatic. And if this team can kind of bottle that and bring that to Charles Schwab, then things can happen for sure. You know, Iowa is leading the Big Ten. I mentioned that Iowa, UCLA, and Oregon remain in contention. And to double check my math, so the 5th place team right now is Michigan, and Washington at 15 and 12. Nebraska, in theory, could be 16 and 14. at the end of next weekend, and Michigan plays Indiana. So one of those teams is going to get 2 wins and finish 2 or more and finish with 16. So they could be in a Nebraska can't be 5th all by itself in the league unless there's rain or something that messes with it. But
who knows?
Yeah. So excitement ahead for Nebraska. There are things to watch still with this Nebraska season as it goes to Purdue.
Yeah. Quick note: Iowa and Oregon have the series finale this weekend. That's at the very top of the league. They play each other.
Good job, Big Ten schedule makers. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, I bet they did. I don't know how they did that, but it's Iowa
scheduling.
Yeah, Iowa's coming off a weekend where they went to Des Moines and played Oregon State 3 times and tied on Sunday. They went 0-2-1, and now they get to, I believe, host Oregon at their place this weekend. So that's a huge Big Ten series.
Nebraska won a series from Oregon State, so you can see kind of in the comparative results, which is a dangerous thing to do. That Nebraska can play with, and Nebraska has played Iowa, so that's probably a better way to gauge Nebraska against Iowa. Sure. But Nebraska can play with anybody in the Big Ten. Like there is not a dominant program out there that's going to be a 1 seed or anything like that. So get to Omaha, see what happens. Also in West Lafayette, that's where Nebraska's final series is this weekend. But over the last weekend in West Lafayette, that's where the Big Ten. Did I say that right? Lafayette.
Lafayette.
Yeah. I don't know. It sounded weird. Nebraska softball made it to the semifinals of the Big Ten softball tournament. Jordy Bahl, the Big Ten player and pitcher of the year. That's a first. No one's ever won both of those honors in the same year. She gave up 4 runs uncharacteristically. So I think her streak of or her attempt to try to score more runs than she's allowed in the season, becoming the 4th in NCAA history. That's now she has some work to do to get back over the hump on that. UCLA knocks out the Huskers in the semis, and then Michigan beat the Bruins for the championship. So Nebraska was placed on Sunday in NCAA softball in the Baton Rouge regional. Huskers are the number 2 seed out of 4 at LSU. Jordy Bahl will get the ball Friday at 2 p.m. against UConn. UConn, by the way, ended Creighton's season in the Big East tournament final. So the winner of the Nebraska-UConn game likely to play LSU, which is the number 10 national seed. And then the winner of that LSU region will play the winner of the Tennessee region. Tennessee, of course, is the favorite in that. Nebraska has already beaten Tennessee. That was way back season opener. So the committee, as we talked about last week, the committee had an opportunity to do something very, 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 I don't know, sneaky, very, very, very like headline grabbing and pit Nebraska and Jordy Bahl against her former team where she won 2 national championships, Oklahoma. Didn't happen in the regional or super regional, but if Nebraska finds a way to get through to the Women's College World Series, Oklahoma would likely await in the first round as the number 2 seed.
Interesting. Okay, so another note. First of all, hashtag softball BAHL. We're gonna get that going, which is good.
Yep.
Speaking of Oklahoma softball, did you see what happened to them in their conference title game?
No.
Well, they were scheduled. They were scheduled to be. It was number 1 versus number 2 in the SEC tournament final.
A&M
against A&M, and it got canceled due to rain. So they just called them co-champions and moved on. I don't know why they did that, but yep, there you go. That's
you know what? It's softball. Play it the next day. You don't have to worry about burning the pitcher's arm.
They play 4 games in a day sometimes. Like, who cares? Just play the damn game. I don't know. I don't get it.
Oh,
whatever.
Great. Like, thanks for like trying to not be a serious sport. I mean, like we're trying to give softball some love, and they canceled the tournament championship game. Yep. What if that happens in OKC? Will they cancel it then?
Yeah, right. What if it was a conference that really, you had to know who the automatic bid was? You know what I mean?
Well, they probably wouldn't do it then.
Yeah, I would hope not.
You just revert to the regular season champ, I guess, unless they weren't in that game. All right, watch softball, see Jordy Bahl pitch and hit. It should be a fun weekend in Baton Rouge for the Huskers.
Soft BAHL. Okay. We'll be back. Why is Matt Rhule keep finding himself in random places? We'll talk about it next. All right. So a WWE fight on Monday of last week, WWE Raw in Omaha on Monday. He's throwing there he is, throwing the bones. If you're watching along with this on YouTube, he's getting introduced by Pat McAfee, shaking hands with everybody, people who I have no idea who they are. And then he goes on throughout the week and he finds out, okay, Sunday, there's a NASCAR race in Kansas City at Kansas Speedway. Let's go. And then he finds himself as Kyle Larson wins the race on the podium with him celebrating after the game. I don't know. There has to be some sort of connection here that I'm missing, and I have never heard of it before.
I have no idea. Like, this is not Kyle Larson, the former Nebraska punter, who
no.
This is a NASCAR driver who has no affiliation to my knowledge with Nebraska football. But maybe there's a Matt Rhule connection. I don't know. Does he vacation in Cape May, New Jersey?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And this is after Rhule was at the Kentucky Derby, right?
That's right. That was last weekend. Yes. Yeah. That was last weekend.
So is he going to be on the sidelines at the Western Conference Finals this week in Oklahoma City or Minneapolis? Like, where does Matt Rhule go next? Would that be a game for us to play? Like, what sporting event or public event will Matt Rhule attend next?
If not, we will definitely Photoshop him into that. That seems like a good bit.
He could start making appearances where he's not even really there. Just digital appearances.
Put Matt Rhule at all of the past Super Bowls, and I don't know when I imagine. I figured that we'd see him more prominently at the College World Series over the last couple of years, but I don't think that he's really
busy. It's a busy stretch of camp season. So, like, let's just say this, where we're at right now on the football calendar is about the quietest time, because the players finished spring practice. They went into dead week and final exams. That's wrapping up this week. They're going to be going home, many of them, over the next couple of weeks. You'll see Dylan Raiola working with his trainer, his personal quarterbacks coach, Jeff Christensen. If his schedule takes him where it did last year, and I would think it probably will, may take some Nebraska pass catchers with him down there, like a little treat from the QB, and throw the football around in North Texas. Most of the Nebraska football players will spend time with as will Dylan, and Dylan was back home in Georgia to see his family just over this last weekend. But they're going to be back home. So Rhule's got this big giant football facility in Lincoln. It's kind of empty, and he's like, okay, I'm going to the Kentucky Derby. I'm going to WWE Raw. I'm going to a NASCAR race in Kansas. Like, just put stuff on my schedule and I'm going to show up.
Okay. So I guess thinking about May sporting events, we have all these NBA playoff games. The Indy 500 should be coming up in a couple weeks. If he's a big racing fan, so maybe you'll check in on that at the end of the month. I can't think of anything else that really is. There's a couple more horse races, I guess. But maybe
try to go to the Triple Crown.
Well, they do the second one this past weekend, but the horse who won the Kentucky Derby wasn't in it, and so nobody actually cared.
Oh, and wasn't there? There's usually a few weeks between the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. No, they haven't had the Preakness yet. And
then the Belmont is the first weekend of June, I think, this year, if I remember correctly. So
the Preakness, it's the third Saturday in May each year. So that would get us to this coming Saturday. I don't know. Let's check with Rhule and see if those are both East Coast races. And that's his. Those are his roots. Yeah. So if we've lost you, I'm sorry. There's a reason. Like, what I want to ask about this, and we can talk about this for the final couple of minutes of the show today. Like, I kind of thought mean, this is great, and it's great publicity for Nebraska. It's nice to see Matt Rhule out there, and some people probably wonder who are NASCAR fans, like who's the guy standing next to Kyle Larson in victory lane, like whatever. If you're not a NASCAR college football crossover fan, which I think many people are, who follow racing,
sure,
you may be wondering, but people don't care. For Nebraska's sake, like when Rhule got to Nebraska, it was a big part of his job, I think, to go out and be seen and promote Nebraska football. And the Huskers did all kinds of stuff, both internally and externally, to make it a program that was cool. And you saw the Chasing 3 documentary. They let people in. And I feel like we've kind of arrived at a place in, despite Rhule's past 10 days, we've kind of arrived at a place where Nebraska's going to bring it in just a bit over the next 3 months as we lead up to the season. Last year, the summer before that, Rhule would make radio appearances on national programs. He'd go on Pat McAfee. He'd go hang out with Joel Klatt, that kind of a thing. And coaches still do that. And I think he'll strategically still do that. But I think some of that they're going to tone down going into year 3 because now it's about the football.
Yeah, I don't think they're like you said, they did that at first. He did that at first. I don't think he's trying to do anything by always being in the front row and being at stuff. And frankly, like, I don't know. I did a tweet last night, and of course, the mentions are like, "What's wrong? Do you have a problem with this?" And I didn't respond.
We do not have a problem with this.
I do not have a problem with this whatsoever. It's interesting. It doesn't matter. In my opinion,
it's something to talk about.
Yeah, because I don't think he's trying to do anything. I don't. And people will say, "Oh, well, maybe he should be, working instead of at all these events." It's like, no, guys, he's a person. He's
got his phone in his pocket. Like if something's going on, he'll know about it. And he works a lot. Yeah. That's a nonsensical take.
Yeah. I got no problem. I got no problem with him being at stuff. I just wonder how he has all the connections to do the things that he's doing. I want to know the connection between him and Kyle Larson. Maybe it's something that we've heard before and we're just forgetting in this moment, and somebody will reach out and they'll be like, "Hey, it's obviously this." So I want to know kind of how he got up there and how he keeps ending up in the front row at all these, incredible sporting events. But that's all it is for me. He's just always, we're really focusing on this last week where he's been at 3 things. And so, can't wait to see where he shows up next.
Kyle Larson's from Elk Grove, California. He, doesn't seem again to have an obvious connection to Nebraska football or Matt Rhule. And I don't know. I didn't see it. I just saw the social media. Like Matt Rhule probably would have been he might have been in victory lane no matter who won the race. It might not have even had anything to do with Kyle Larson. He's got Matt's probably got a guy in Lincoln, like whose whole job it is to find cool stuff for him to go to. Is that possible?
If I made several $1 million and had a couple weeks off, yes, I'd be like, "Hey, what are some of the things I could do? Take me there." Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not that person's only job, but one of your jobs is to like, let's go do stuff. Let's go places, strategically, maybe around the Midwest. What's in Kansas City that might draw Matt Rhule to Kansas City to want to be seen in a big event, big environment in that town? Nebraska kind of has a lot of players and coaches with connections. It's been a huge focus for Nebraska in the last 12 months to develop roots in the Kansas City area. And it's playing its season opener at Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There's something there. All right. That's it for us today. We'll keep tabs on Matt Rhule and see where he ends up next. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. You can check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian and Keith coming up as they recap everything for the draft. And of course, look ahead as well. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.